All right, here we go. Betting Weekly Live here with you on a Friday, heading into the weekend. Mike Carver and Doug Kezirian getting you ready for all of tonight's action and this weekend's action as well in the NCAA tournament. We have tons of live stuff to get to as well, but I'll start here, Doug, because I buried the Daily Double. We didn't hit it last night, but I had to bring it up at the start of the show for two reasons. Number one, Cody Williams cleared the 13.5 before halftime, which you said he would during the show. You said that he would get that before halftime, and he did. But on the other side of it, Doug, how gutless was Georgia last night in that game against St. Louis?
Yeah, don't put your tail too far between your legs. I mean, this thing happens in the tournament. We get these just bizarre outliers. And I mean, it's literally called March Madness for a reason. Now, that was an 8-9 game, and the madness is usually the buzzer beaters that we saw earlier today in the Kentucky game, but it does show you just the variance of this. Now, I had a play of the day in my Discord, which was also Georgia. So you're not alone. I liked the Bulldogs, which is even more upsetting and embarrassing because I've been ripping them for a couple months, and here I am backing them against a team that was clearly better coached and more prepared and smarter because I've criticized the Dogs for that. So you turn the page, you try to find the next winner.
We go back to it tonight, Doug. That's all that we have to do. We're back at it this afternoon. We're back at it tonight. It is all happening. Let's tell you what's happening right now. I guess the story here first would be Hofstra. Under 4 timeout in the first half has a 5-point lead over Alabama, 30-25. That, of course, the 13 versus 14 in the Midwest region. Second game of the day down in Tampa. This was one of these games, Doug, we discussed yesterday and throughout the week where we thought Alabama maybe could be a little vulnerable. Now, we've seen some close misses here. We'll talk about Wright State and Virginia in a moment, but Hofstra very alive here so far in the first half against the Tide.
We talked about this game yesterday. I thought it was an ultimate variance game just because of Alabama 3-point shooting, right? Nate Oates and the analytically driven offense. And then also the fact that they're missing Holloway, their best 3-point shooter in terms of percentage, and I believe second leading scorer. So, I mean, and not just missing him, like kicked out of school because of a drug thing. So who knows how the locker room vibe is and things like that. And Hofstra, even before the suspension and everything or expulsion was a kind of a, hot take or hot pick by a lot of sharps. So look, sharps were also on a dead dog yesterday against Nebraska, Troy. But I just think this was like a money line player for me or an alt line play just because the variance. I lean into variance. I don't complain about it. So this game is one of the outcomes I envision. Now, of course, I didn't play it because I'm always scared to bet against Alabama. It just come at you in waves. But just based on what I've been watching, this kind of game is going to the script in terms of, Bama could lose.
Yeah, look, they're letting them hang around. Not forget letting them hang around. I mean, Hofstra's had the lead for pretty much the entire the good bulk of the first half here. They've been out ahead of Alabama, so we could have ourselves a fun second half ahead there in Tampa. The other game that is still live right now, Iowa State's about to hit the half against Tennessee State. Now, it's 55-29 here. Tennessee State was catching a big number, but Iowa State's clearing already. But I guess more this is a long-term thing for Iowa State, Doug, because Joshua Jefferson got hurt like about a minute or two into the game. Obviously, it hasn't mattered in terms of the score, but it could matter going forward for them.
Yeah, how severe is the injury, I guess is my question.
Yeah.
I did an article I wrote on Substack saying like the Ken Pom formula based the last 30 years or 26 years had these 11 teams that can win it all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I took it and trimmed it down to 6 because I didn't believe in some of the 2 seeds. But Iowa State was on that list. I felt like that was the long shot. And I thought Iowa State was the team where you could bet to win it all that would help you win your pool, right? Like a viable chance, but not among the chalk. And they're looking every bit part of it. I think they're kind of an annoying team because I think some of their success was inflated by the Hilton Magic. I took Tennessee State plus the 25.5, not looking great. So we're going to need a second half money line play to win. And I don't know what the turnaround time is for the weekend and the injury, but Tennessee State's sort of helter-skelter. Now they can come back and make it interesting. LIU, I mean, the live line got up to 41.5 or so, and then they lost by 32 or so. So sometimes that halftime will cool off the team that came out guns blazing and with an edge and didn't dismiss their opponent like we saw Duke yesterday with Siena. At least that's what they said at halftime. So that does maybe get them into lackadaisical mode. But I would say Iowa State's going to start looking ahead to the next game.
That's how I'm starting to think too. And like you said, like this is 35 right now, the live
Right.
number at Bet Rivers, and things could get pulled back a little bit in the second half where it gets closer to that pregame number. The Crooked Chef, Georgia, you are now dead to me. Don't worry, Crooked Chef, you ain't alone in that one. As long as the Cyclones finish the cover here, I'm fine. Trying to fade them rest of the tourney, but couldn't sleep on them here. Taking care of business this afternoon, no doubt. Red Hawks money line, let's go. I will get there, Steve, in a moment. I'm about to get to the Red Hawks who are tipping off in a couple of minutes. Elsewhere today, Akron showed why I didn't want to play them. Doug, in the last 8 minutes of that game against Texas Tech, they lost by 20, 91-71. You mentioned Arizona, 92-58 over LIU. So they took care of business there. Kentucky, Santa Clara, 89-84 in overtime. I woke up this morning, Doug. I played the under in Kentucky and Santa Clara. So I guess those two threes at the end of the game.
Bad beat.
Threes at the end of the game and regulation really weren't helpful to me, Doug. They just weren't. Unfortunate.
You know, it's just funny. People who you would think would know a little bit more about sports are yelling at Kentucky or Santa Clara for not fouling.
Right.
You can't in that juncture because there was no timeout, 3.4 seconds left, and there's a continuation now in college football or college basketball. So you just can't foul. It's just not the same. You foul when there's 8 seconds for a reason, not when there's 3.4. I mean, that's the whole rule, like between 10 and 8 seconds and when they're dribbling the ball. But when it's 3.4 and you go to foul, like I've seen them in the NBA rule 3 shots because you can justify that the guy's shooting at that point. So honestly, I think Santa Clara played it fine. Like I really do. Maybe you run and try to like slow up the dribble a little bit, but it's just because you're going to crash the offensive rebound and then you're trying to get back. Maybe Santa Clara shouldn't have shot so quickly.
You know, Doug, the kid hit a half-court shot, banked it in.
Half-court bench.
I mean, let's calm down. The kid hit a miracle shot in order for them to tie the game.
Yeah, and I really think it was unavoidable. I really do if you're Santa Clara. I mean, there's only so much you can cover on the court in that helter-skelter. Again, no timeout and all that. So I think it was I think they did fine. There's nothing to blame them about.
Overtime helpful to the Kentucky and the overbetters. Congratulations. 89-84. They both get home in that. And we just had go final Virginia, an 82-73 win over Wright State. I was hoping for a little while there, Doug. I might get that small money line play on Wright State home, but I'll just take the 18.5 with the win there for Wright State.
I mean, I had under in Virginia. And Wright State couldn't miss. I mean, not miss to start the game. They look like the greatest teams in college basketball history. And it only goes over by 8 points. So I'm really annoyed.
Yeah, they were hitting threes from everywhere. Wright State just, it seemed like couldn't miss for some
3 minutes into the game, it was 0-0.
That too started very slow, and then suddenly just nobody could miss. But Virginia moves on there in that one. All right, let's get to the games that are going to tip in a little bit. We have 2 more in the afternoon session that have not started, including the one that I love coming up in a couple minutes in San Diego. Utah State and Villanova. Utah State minus 1.5, 147.5 is the total. Nothing has changed for me overnight, Doug. I am green light go on the Aggies here today in San Diego.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think just reading the screen, reading the market and other books, I think Utah State's the right side. We thought that on Monday. There's nothing to get me off of it. Even my stupid Georgia pick is not going to get me off the same spread that I liked in all week. So let's go Aggies.
Let's go Aggies here. It's my favorite one of the 2 days. So I've got plenty going on with Utah State here in a couple of minutes. And the last game of the afternoon session is the Miami of Ohio Tennessee game, which will tip. So Virginia just ended. So we probably got about 20, 25 minutes before that game starts. And this is now 11.5. I even saw it touch 12.5 a little while ago, Doug. So 11.5 for the Vols, 149.5. Everybody's darling, Miami of Ohio, coming up in action. Oh, we lost Doug there for a moment. We will get Doug back in the mix here. So Miami of Ohio coming off of the win, of course, against SMU the other night. Tennessee comes in as the 6th seed in this region, playing in Rick Barnes, as we know, usually falls apart in the second weekend. First weekend, Barnes pretty much always finds a way to get across the line. And we'll see if he could do that today. A lot of people on Miami of Ohio here catching all of these points.
Well, I thought the right side definitely the other night, wire to wire, they win. I mean, that was just a tailor-made silver platter. And it wasn't even like we were like a 4-point dog where like you could get beat by free throws. You get no, but the other day against SMU was like 7.5. So you were really protected. This is interesting. So Nate Ament is their stud freshman who's probably going to be like pick around 8th in the draft if he comes out. He hurt himself in the Alabama game, missed that game, missed the South Carolina game. I think missed one more game. He just hasn't been right with an ankle injury. And my understanding is it's not going to be 100%. Of course, every stupid analyst across the country will compare him to Kevin Durant because he's a tall, thin guy. But he's got a very different game. But he's still very good. He's still very good. And I think Miami's probably the right side, but Tennessee is just going to get every rebound. They are so thick in the middle and sized, and they'll just dominate the glass. And if Gillespie hits any sort of shots or Amon hits any shots, this could get ugly. I just think they're going to have a hard time defending this Miami offense. A lot of slip screens, pick and pops, inverse, sort of picks. There's just a lot to like with this Redhawks. I mean, it's kind of the beauty of basketball, right? The reason the game is so cool is that there's so many different chess pieces in a starting lineup, right? You have the bigs, the smalls, and this game will perfectly embody it because Tennessee has sort of fits the prototype on the front line. They have a small guard, and then Miami's just gonna have a bunch of shooters, but they have bigs who can shoot. And I think they're going to present problems for the Vols because the bigs are not going to want to come out and guard. But I think that's the recipe for success. Miami's not going to take anyone off the dribble. It's going to come down to whether their big guys can shoot, like the 5 off the bench. It's not just Elder. It's some of the bigs. The guy who went off, the lefty who went off against SMU. So I lean to the dog plus the points. I think the Cinderella run could come up short here, but I think they can get inside the number here.
Let them fly, Redhawks. There in the chat box. Miami of Ohio, similar lines.
They want 43s. They want 43s a game attempts.
Would you? I know you've done this a little bit with them. Would you consider their team total today, or no? Because it's Tennessee with.
Well, yeah, I think that's a really good call because I don't think Tennessee is like going to be up for this game, so to speak. I think this Tennessee team is going to be the classic, like, let's play not to lose because it's Rick Barnes. 68.5 is not that much to ask from this offense. I think it's one of those things where I need to watch the first couple minutes. And if those bigs are going to stretch and the bigs of Tennessee are not going to guard them, then I would fire.
There you go. That does seem light for Miami of Ohio. 68.5, especially with how they've been able to
nothing in the paint, though.
Yeah, they've got to hit their shots. They've got to be able to hit because they're going to be bombing a lot from outside throughout this game. So those are the last 2 games in the afternoon session. Let's go through the night now. The first game of the night will be 6:50 p.m. East with Iowa and Clemson. This game's in Tampa. Iowa -1.5. Total now 130.5. So I know we talked about this game a couple days ago. It was like 128.5. Yesterday, 129. Now we're up to 130.5 with this total.
Yeah, Massera was on the under. I'm on the under as well. I don't love the line movement, of course, but with these low totals, it really can be stressful because one sort of little mini run will just drastically change the live total. But I'm on the Hawkeyes in the under here. I just think Clemson is just so limited. It's a bunch of rock fights. They looked completely inept against Duke in the ACC title game. And that's what I'm going to have to roll with, whether, I'm going to not try to let my performance so far in this tournament kind of dictate or influence me much.
Just got to keep firing away, Doug. We just got to keep letting it fly here. I'm with you. I like Iowa in the game. I don't think Clemson's that great. I think Iowa's a little bit better. And I like this under. This is, I feel like this is kind of one of those 65-60 type of games. It's going to be
I
right
mean,
there in that
the market's
area.
been tight so far. Yesterday, to be fair, was 8-8 on the over-unders, right?
Yeah.
11 dogs, I believe, covered,
Yes.
6 outright, something like that. I think it's going to be right around the number. 130.5 is really low. Iowa can hit a bunch of threes. We know that, but everything's methodical. And I think Clemson stinks.
That's the biggest thing that I keep going back to is Clemson stinks, and that's going to help this under even more because they can't score Clemson like that. They just can't. They're just
They really
not good
can't.
offensively. They're tough to watch, and I hope it's really tough tonight. Tough enough to stay under 130.5. First game of the night in San Diego will be just after 7:10 p.m. East, or at least they think it's going to be. We'll see. These games have been getting pushed back. St. John's minus 10.5 against Northern Iowa out of the Valley. Another low total, 132.5 for this one.
So we have a couple games coming up tonight that I'm really curious to see the emotional high of a conference tournament championship and whether they're big favorites, whether that's going to rear its ugly head. The other one's Purdue, right? So Purdue wins the Big Ten on Sunday, quick turnaround. You just wonder how much the Johnnies are going to be up for this game. Now, I suspected that Arkansas might play with their food a little bit, and they did not, although Hawaii cut it to 10. But still, Arky was pretty strong from the start. I think the Panthers are the only side you can play here. I think first half, and something I would like to see more of out of my own game, if you will, my betting game that I highly recommend. It's betting first half money lines. Like Siena would have cashed yesterday. The huge payout. Howard was only lost the first half by 4, but they were right there. I think a lot of times these big favorites ultimately get there, at least the win outright. But if you're going to play some money line, I'd flirt with a little bit. Now, it's obviously not the same price because it's a 20-minute game instead of a 40-minute game. But I do think your winnability is up there if you think the handicap, and especially if you're trying to isolate a flat spot by St. John, something like that. I think that's where you can get a little frisky and do the alt lines and stuff like that. And that's all a money line is. It's an alt line, right? Yep. So I would highly recommend doing that if you like the Panthers, and I do like UNI here.
Wright State also did that today, Doug. They were in the lead at halftime.
Bingo.
Against Virginia. So they were a money line first half, as well as a very big dog earlier today.
I think to compare, like Virginia money line for the game, right? So you got to compare that, to each other.
Right.
I'm looking it up. So Virginia and oh gosh, I'm all over the place.
For the game, Wright State was 14-1 money line.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that?
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently I'm not good at
23 threes gets over 68.5. That's all they need, Steve. 23 threes from Miami of Ohio. Why not?
All right, so Wright State was 13 or 14-1.
Yeah.
First half was 650. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's about half and half, right? But you can also chop it up too, right? But
the double result
45-1.
Siena Duke yesterday.
Could you imagine if you bet that and then you're sitting there with 7 minutes to go and Duke's losing? You're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose because Siena's going to win both.
That's a tough one to lose if that would have happened. Yeah. I'm sure that's probably those 216s that have won in the past that somebody probably tried pulling that off at some point.
But I mean, that's also pretty greedy. Like, you can get, what was Siena first half money line? 18-1, 20-1. Like, do you really need the 45-1 double result?
Some greed is there, Doug. I was telling you before the show, I was trying to be greedy, wanting to get that.
Greed is good, as Gordon Gekko once told it.
Come on. I think this is a little bit of a tough matchup for St. John's tonight. I think this is a team that plays a much different style. Northern Iowa was another one of these, I like to call them bar fight teams. They get you in there and they want to slow the game. That's why the total's so low. I think they take care of business, but I would bet, Doug, that 10.5 is going to be in doubt all the way to the end.
Yeah, and like St. John's doesn't have a true point guard. Like that, point guards are critical this time of year. And Darling, he's been a nice piece, a good midseason adjustment for Patino. And I think we should involve it in the handicap. No white suit, I'm assuming. So that is part of this. That is part of the handicap.
I don't know when you bust that out. Is that like Final Four? You take the white suit out? When does that?
He only does it at the Garden.
It's the whiteout at the Garden. It's the one game where they do that. But you never know. If it's a big game, you got to bring out the big threads sometimes, Doug. That's kind of how it works, at least for me.
I'd like to see a halftime change if his team needs a shakeup.
The other team you mentioned, you're very interested to see off of winning their conference championship tournament is Purdue. So they will play Queens of North Carolina in St. Louis just after 7:35 p.m. East. 25.5 for the Boilermakers, 159.5.
Yeah, I found out this was Queens, not Queens College in New York, about 3 days ago. So I think I'd already liked. So I'm going to play the over here just because of the profile of the teams they want to run and get out there and go. And I think Purdue's going to be a little flat on defense. I do think that narrative, I don't think they're going to win the game or anything, like maybe you and I think can do against St. John's. But I do think the Royals can keep this sort of movement. And if they're going to cover, like if you like the 25.5, I think the over gets there. I've been impressed with Purdue adjusting on offense. Their big guy had a monster weekend, the Big Ten tournament. And then they have enough shooters, and then Braden Smith's been playing well. I think this could be 100 to 70, something like that.
Up and away.
So I think over makes more sense than Queens. I really do. Because I don't think Queens is going to shut down Purdue's offense. So if Queens is going to cover, it's going to be with points. But there's a chance they don't cover in a high-scoring game.
Right. The game, like you said, that chance for 100 to 70, right in that area where it blows through the over. And Purdue covers the number is definitely going to be there. And I'm glad they are in North Carolina because that means I could play the game tonight, which I'm very happy about.
Okay.
The later game in Philly, second game in Philly tonight is Furman and UConn for us. So UConn minus 20.5, 134.5 is the total. Now, I guess this is kind of like the opposite of St. John's and Purdue, right, Doug? Because they're coming off getting thrashed in their championship game in their tournament. How does Hurley and company respond?
I think it's very fascinating because we've mentioned it. Hurley has covered 14 straight games. Now, I believe 13. The first 13 of them were as a favorite. Last one was last year as a dog against Florida. They nearly won outright, but got there with the points. I think this UConn team is fool's gold. Now, I don't think they're going to necessarily lose this game or maybe not even not cover. I just think when you're inconsistent in the regular season, and I know you only need to get hot for one tournament run and just beat the team in front of you and all that stuff, I just think it's going to rear its ugly head. I say the same thing about the Minnesota Timberwolves. You cannot lose to that many under 500 teams and be a team that's tight and connected enough to win it all, because you're just going to get challenged a lot throughout the course of the playoffs or the postseason. So with the Huskies, I think Massaro said it earlier in the week, like they don't have great guard play and they don't have lights out shooting. At times they do, but I don't know enough about Furman to back them here. But I'm not laying it with UConn, and I'm not looking to bet the Huskies in this tournament. And if Hurley continues to cover, maybe I'll change my stance. I just don't think it's as simple as flipping a switch. I think the reason he gets all mad on the sidelines and yells is because I think he's plagued by, at times, like the hardest thing to do in coaching is getting your players to do what you want them to do, right? Push the right buttons, all that. And I think he gets frustrated because he sees what the right thing to do is, like any coach. And it's certain guys, and I don't think it's, oh, now Hurley's going to really push the right button. I just think it's one of those things where there's just something off. And I'm looking at it through the lens of a national champion. I'm not saying they're going to be bounced in the first round, but at some point, this team's going to underdeliver. You don't lose as a 17.5-point home favorite in conference play, and then a couple weeks later lose at Marquette if you're a true champion. Like Michigan loses in the Big Ten title game. They didn't lose during the regular. Maybe they stunk for a half, or Duke or Arizona, but there's just a polish and reliability that's lacking with UConn, and I'm just not looking to bet them at all in this tournament.
There you go. The late night game in Philly tonight between the Paladins and the Huskies. Much different Paladin team than a few years ago that upset Virginia. This team was like 7th or 8th in the conference and got hot.
There's been a couple of those, right? There's been a couple of those.
Had a couple of those there. I'll work backwards now, Doug. The first game of the night in Philadelphia, before this one, will be the 7:10 matchup between UCF and UCLA, just after 7:25 p.m. East. UCLA right now, kind of where it's been all week long, which is sitting at a 5.5. 151.5 is the total. I kind of like the under here tonight. I'm rooting for UCLA. I've got that one big future on them. Hopefully they can make a little bit of noise, but I think that this total's kind of high. I think UCLA is going to play some defense tonight against UCF.
So this is interesting. I think you got to start the conversation with the health of Bilodeau and then Demp. They're supposed to play, but it's hard. Like the whole region is banged up, right? No Mikel Brown in Louisville. I just think it's a tough read. I think the Bruins get it done, but I don't know if I want to lay 5.5. It's kind of a lot of points, although they've been great. Like they blew out Michigan State, or convincing win over Michigan State. I think this Bruins team's really good. Now, I've heard this comment, and I just have a caveat to it. They've struggled every time they've gone east. True, because they did in the Big Ten on the road, but they also faced some good teams. But also, like that's another team's home court. Okay,
right.
Like that's not the same. Now, UCF's not changing time zones and has a shorter flight, but you're not going to the, I don't know, basketball version of the bounce house. You're going to the Palestra or whatever. So I'm not as ready to dismiss UCLA away from home because it's not a true road game in this situation, as opposed to like during the season, even when they went to like Penn State or whatever with bad teams. It's different. The teams are playing at home and they're getting everyone's best shot. I think Bruins will have a truer self or truer performance in this game. Now, 5.5 could still be the wrong number, but I wouldn't lay it though.
Yeah, it is definitely something that came up in the back of my mind with UCLA and how much we've heard Cronin complain about travel and what the numbers say when they do come east of the Mississippi. But it is a little bit of a different feel because it's a neutral site NCAA tournament game and not going to East Lansing and Ann Arbor, back to back. It's a little bit of a different scene for them tonight. I don't want to lay the 5.5. I do think they're going to get the job done and win, though. I do kind of like that under, though, Doug. I think the 151.5. I may go on the downside there with that.
I wouldn't talk you off of it.
Wouldn't talk me off of it. That's what I wanted to hear. I wait for Doug to say that. If he says something like that, I feel a lot better. Second game of the night in San Diego will be Kansas and Cal Baptist. So Kansas laying the lumber here. 14.5, 2 tutties and a hook. 141.5 the total.
So I'm doing the same thing I did in the Virginia game. What could go wrong? I went 0-2, but I'm going favorite and under. Okay. I don't think this Cal Baptist team can do anything. Now, they have a little Damian Stoudemire type guard, a little lefty who's like 5'8", listed at 5'10". He's not. And he can go off. Leading scorer, great player in a bad conference, okay? This conference is bad. So is KU really going to show up with Darren Peterson and just like lose? Now, Self's only gone to the Final Four, my understanding is years he's been the 1 seed. So this is the profile of when Bill Self gets bounced, like the Bucknells of the world, right? Northern Iowa with Ali Farouk-Manesh and stuff like that. Like he doesn't make it out of the second weekend when he's kind of this seed. I just don't think Cal Baptist has the true profile to handle their business against the Jayhawks. I just don't. I like the favorite, and I don't think Cal Baptist. If you want to go Cal Baptist team total under, I'm okay with that too. I just think if this game, if KU doesn't cover, I think it's going under. Now, I thought that with Virginia, and it went over the total, but I think the gap between the teams is wider here with Cal Baptist and KU.
I agree, Doug. They weren't the best team in that conference. They upset Utah Valley in the championship game, who was kind of the best team all year. Self's had to listen to a year how he lost in the first round last year, and I know that was against Arkansas and Calipari. It was a little bit different. This should be a smash job for Kansas tonight. It really
It's a
should.
low number, man.
They should take care of business here, and we get ourselves Kansas and St. John's on Sunday. Like we need that game on Sunday. It'll be good. Michigan is going to get a scare, I think. We will talk about the Saturday matchups here in a moment. I got 2 more for you. Late night, Missouri and Miami will be the late night game. Miami -1.5. This is the Kansas City pod where they're at. 145.5 is the total in this one. Of course, this after the Purdue game.
So I like Miami here. I don't think Missouri's buttoned up. I don't think they're very good. This team was only good at home, right?
Yeah.
Now they started. I mean, they got better on the road as the conference got on, but I think the bottom tier of the SEC may not be that great. So, and I think this Canes team's pretty good. I like Miami here.
I like
Now this
Miami
game's
as
in
well.
St. Louis, which is kind of weird, but
Yes. Weird that a 10 seed gets put so close to home, right, Doug? Very strange to see a
right.
10 seed getting to play so close to their house. But
Well, it's just like it's almost like the committee doesn't pay
but
attention to
but you
things.
know what, Doug? I think that that's even more telling because they're close to home and Miami's still favored
Right.
in the game. And I think and I know that probably doesn't that gets put into the mix or whatever and how they come up with it, but it should be in there that they're that close to home. I
Yeah, I
like
don't know what
Miami.
the true, I don't know what they do for the crowd and the comfort of traveling and
Right.
everything, but you know,
Bus versus plane is a little different when you look at it for the NCAA tournament. And the last one. So the 2-1s yesterday covered the big number. The one this afternoon did not. This is the biggest number. Prairie View A&M 35.5 against the Gators late night in Tampa.
I can't get there with Prairie View. I thought they looked so mediocre.
The
I
Lehigh
was
game.
I
They
was
played
impressed with
Lehigh, right?
Howard. I
Yeah, they
was
played Lehigh.
impressed with Howard. I was not impressed with Prairie View.
Yeah, I felt like we had a little bit of a different feel of Howard after that. Like we felt like they could give us something. And we felt like Siena was maybe shouldn't have been a 16. They should have been a 15, something like that. So we had some reasoning behind those 16s. I really can't find one with Prairie View A&M in this game. And other than Florida, we know Florida's not the best shooting team in the country. Maybe they could miss, but
Right,
they're just
right,
good.
right.
But they're going to overload them with size, Doug. I mean, they're just going to smash them down low. I mean, that's how
Yeah,
it
it's an
feels to
NBA
me.
front court.
Yeah, it's a bad scene, I think, for Prairie View A&M tonight in that game. So that will conclude the first round, those late night games in those 4 spots. Since we know, Doug, what's going to happen tomorrow, we have Saturday's slate. We absolutely have to go through a bunch of these. And the early tip, first game of the day on Saturday, round of 32 games, is that Michigan Wolverine team taking on St. Louis, who got us last night with Georgia. First game just after noon East in Buffalo, 12.5 for the Wolverines and 161.5.
As I've quoted Maya Angelou on this show many times, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And that's what the Wolverines, I think, have done for the last couple of weeks. They're not covering. They just aren't.
Wow.
And I think St. Louis, I mean, look, they blew me away. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was amazing. And I think it's going to be a fascinating watch. I think the Billikens can keep this inside the number.
It's kind of been Michigan's way lately, right? It just feels like
They go on those runs with like 14 minutes to go in the game. They take a tie game to like a 9-point game, and it's really annoying. But yesterday it was fine when you're catching 31. This is different when it's 12.5. So that might be annoying, but I don't think Michigan's going to go for the knockout blow. I was impressed with how much, how intense St. Louis was the entire game. The second half, they opened the second half up 17. They opened the second half on a 14-0 run.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. I'm so glad that I fell asleep. Like I was so annoyed. It was 17 at the half. I'm like, are they going to do this? And then I was like, oh, I guess they're not. And I just
Redhawks
passed out.
bomb a 3 first possession. It's just
you guys like Crooked Chef wants to know, do you guys like any of these women's tournament games?
I'm afraid so.
Okay, why don't you while I'm going to regroup and do the rest of the Saturday games, but if you have a women's game, I know we're jumping around a little bit. Utah State with the hot start. You're right about that. Here come
By the way,
Aggies.
I got hooked on Arizona State last night. I had Virginia -2.5 out west in a play-in game, first 4, and they won by 2.
Okay.
Against Arizona State. Oh, back-to-back threes by Miami.
Here we go.
Let's just let it rip.
Everyone's going to get excited here for the Redhawks. St. Louis is my sleeper team, Daryl says. Riding with the Billikens, man, that would be something juicy if they beat Michigan tomorrow in that game.
So the women's,
yes.
I like Holy Cross plus the points. Now, my guy doesn't disagree, but he says you'll get a better line in the game but Holy Cross, let me put it this way. They look like a Holy Cross coach team. Like there's 5 John Havliceks out there. They're a bunch of like pick and pop, but they all bomb threes. I think Michigan gets a little sleepy on defense and lets them. It's going to be some open gym shooting once the margin's like 30. So
40 points. What do you got here? 40, 41 and a half.
I
Oh,
think it's going to be some bombing of threes. And what happens typically in women's basketball is the starters get pulled and then the starters of the losing team stay in a blowout. And so it's going to be, it could get to the margin could get to 45, but I like the Crusaders.
LSU's in the 50s tonight too against Jacksonville. Jeez, 50.
Now they go for triple digits, so that's a little different. Kim Mulkey isn't messing around.
Oh my goodness, you get some big spreads.
So there's
here.
some bad teams that won their, bid stealers, let's call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some bad teams in the tournament. Like Colorado State was a bid stealer. Michigan State, they play with their food a little bit, but CSU is not very good. 18.5 feels cheap. Tennessee's been massively inconsistent. OU's good, but are they 35 points better than Idaho? I'm not so sure.
Wow. How about that? Holy Cross, 41 and a half. LSU, 51 and a half for us tonight. All right.
I'll tell you, Oregon's a team I'm fading. I don't know what the spread was earlier today, but they only won by 10 over Virginia Tech. And I don't think Oregon's good. Like Oregon is a team I'm going to fade the rest. I've been fading them for like a month.
Okay.
But Oregon, they were like small favorites today. So they were like 4, 3.5, 4. So they got there.
Let me rip through the rest of these games tomorrow, Doug. The second game in Buffalo after Michigan is Louisville and Michigan State. Of course, so that'll be a standalone also in the afternoon. Michigan State 4.5, 151.5 for this one.
Well, I'm not a big Sparty guy. I took the Bison of North Dakota State and got whacked. I am.
Get this over 151.5.
I hate Michigan State's offense.
I know.
But this is Izzo where Izzo shines, right? The quick turnaround, right? The less than 48 hours. This is where he can put on a clinic.
It's Michigan State. Like I don't trust this Louisville team. We've seen them in some spots this year, and I know they've got talent. But even the other day, blowing a 20-point lead, only winning by 4, this is an Izzo special on Saturday in Buffalo. It feels like for Sparty.
It's nice grabbing points, man. These games come down to the end, right?
I'll be grabbing points in this next one, Doug. Just after 5:00 East, TCU and Duke will play. Now, I was hoping this would be the noon game, little early morning roll out of bed, but 5:00's okay too. I'm hoping that we talk this into existence early in the week. TCU gets Duke in a little bit of a bar fight, grabbing 11.5 points. But will the fact that Duke had such a scare in the 116 game put them on their best behavior tomorrow against TCU?
So old Doug, who often paid his high school bookie, would definitely think Duke's going to they'll bounce back. They'll flip the switch. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure. There could be just something off with this team. I mean, they're banged up. Shire says, I got out coached by McNamara. Blah. He's trying to see. That's the thing. The best coaches, Saban was classic with this. He knew when his team needed TLC, and he knew when his team needed to get ripped a new one. Like remember the poop through a tin horn and all that?
Yeah.
That's when they win 52-6 or something. And he knew his team was awesome. And so he was just laying into them in the media and laying into them at practice. When they need some coddling, meaning something's not there, you hear it. And that's where I was hearing from Shire, hey, I got out coached. He's fallen on the sword, right? So I'm extracting and deducing. Maybe he did get out coached and wanted to give McNamara his flowers. And that could be true. But when his team needs a little love and coddling, that would be my concern. And Jamie Dixon's been around the block. Shire, we know, is not great in close games, although they did beat Michigan. He executed. But last year in the tournament, they blew the game. So I'd have to take the points. I just don't know how much I want to hammer. It's going to be a small play for me. I just don't know if it's going to be a big play.
It's TCU for me. I'm hoping that they get in there and they drag Duke around and make it really, really difficult on them. Next, Texas A&M, who really hit St. Mary's with a buzzsaw last night in that game. Mary's couldn't do anything. They're catching 10.5 in Oklahoma City against Houston just after 6:00 East, 142.5.
Yeah, I think you want to be careful of the teams that look too good, especially in like pick'em games. But I don't think much of this Houston team. I really do not. So I'm just not in a rush to back the Cougars, laying points and all that stuff. So I'm taking the points here. I think it's too many. I made the line like 7.
Mm.
This Houston team's been inflated all year, man. Like their defense is not the same. I like the over the more I think about it. Their
Mm.
defense is not the same as it was in the peak last 5 years or so.
There you go. Texas A&M and Houston. Let's go Texas and Gonzaga next. Man, was I not impressed with Gonzaga last night
Oh God,
against Kennesaw State. I mean, they just sleptwalked through the first half and most of the second, too. Now they're laying 6.5 against Texas. And here we go, Doug. We've got the first 4 team that's won a couple of games now. Now they're playing again. Are they live here against the Zags?
So what is this, third game in 5 days?
Yeah.
I don't love that. What do you make of that?
I mean, I feel like we've seen so many teams do it that we have to.
Have we?
We've seen a bunch of teams come out of that first 4 and get into the second weekend.
Okay.
We've seen that happen from time to. I don't remember who the last one was.
I know
Was it NC
UCLA
State?
went Final Four, right?
Oh, UCLA did that was the Final Four team. Yes, and they lost to Gonzaga, right, in the Final Four, and that
the
crazy
Jalen
game.
Suggs, crazy shot.
They came out of the first 4.
So that third game wasn't impossible, right? I don't think it'd be impossible. I just,
Yeah, I mean we've had a couple teams. But I still go back to, and you even saw shades of it last night in the BYU game that they survived, and the NC State game that they survived. This Texas team, they can't make free throws. For some reason, Miller doesn't take the one kid off the floor. He misses every single free throw. And they just aren't fundamentally sound. And now you're talking about a team that's a lot better, especially fundamental-wise, than BYU and NC State in Gonzaga, and that can hurt you if this game's close late.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with Texas either, trying to break the press. Remember that? Like that was
they got problems.
That was a mockery of sports. So yeah, I would lay it, to be honest. I do think, as much as I say be careful the teams that didn't look the part, that looked great in the first round, I'd also be looking to back the teams that did play well. Like I think the Zags. Now, the problem is I don't think the Zags are that good, so I think they kind of showed us who they are.
They're not, but they're a lot better than Texas.
Yeah.
And I think that we might be getting I felt like this would be 8.5. And I thought this would be a little bit more. And I feel we're getting a little cheaper price on Gonzaga because they didn't look good against Kennesaw State. We're getting a little break with them here. And I think I'm going to jump on it.
I think that's the only side you could play.
VCU and Illinois as well tomorrow night. Illinois minus 11.5, 151.5. North Carolina, what a melt in the second half of that. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
They did it with Clemson in the tournament, right?
It's just VCU live here.
I don't know. Weren't they the last team in the tournament? I think Illinois looked the part. I also think Penn. I mean, we saw that. Like, talk about a bid stealer. I mean, they were 9.5-point dogs to Yale, so they did not belong in the tournament. I like. I think Illinois probably waxes them, but I don't want to bet it.
Bama pulling away. I was just going to say that Hofstra's letting go of the rope a little bit here. It's 10, but there's still about 15 minutes to go. But Alabama has definitely turned the tide a bit. Utah State is up 7 on Villanova with about 8 minutes to go in the first half. And Miami of Ohio, 5 minutes in, they've hit a couple of threes, and they're tied right now with the Vols as we move forward. I think I have one more game. Oh, 2 more. Excuse me, Doug, quick. Vandy and Nebraska. Vandy minus 2.5 here. The other Saturday night late game.
I think Vandy's the right side, but I don't want to buy. I don't want to bet
1.5 now.
I don't want to bet it because Nebraska's just a variance team.
I'm surprised it's that low. Are you surprised that's not
very
more
surprised.
For Vandy?
It stinks, is what it.
That sure does, Doug. I thought Vandy beating Florida last week. They took I thought they'd be 4, right around there, but. And I know Nebraska never gets any respect.
Right.
That's a strange line. I think that
Yeah,
total's a
and
little
it's
low
been bet
too.
down, right? It's been bet down.
Yeah. And Cinderella of yesterday plays the last game of the day. High Point and Arkansas in Portland, 11.5. And look at this total, Doug, 168 and a
Wow.
half.
And I think it's too short. I think this thing's going to fly over. I really do. Like, High Point wants to run with them. Arkansas rarely. I mean, this is like Alabama style. This should be in the 180s, right?
I agree. All they want to do is hack threes, High Point. I mean, they just want to tee it high and let it fly. I mean, this could be 105-85, 105,
Yeah. Yeah.
90. Like this is gonna be.
And Acuff didn't come out of the game, and it was a blowout late,
Yeah,
so he stays in.
yeah. Very, very strange there. There you go. All the games for Saturday in the round of 32. Before I leave the basketball, Doug, can I interest you in the NIT Sunday night UNLV plus 4.5 at Tulsa? Can I interest you in that?
Big game. I wouldn't lay it. This UNLV team's on a mission. And we saw Nevada take care of business. We saw another Mountain West team, I think New Mexico, but then CSU lost at home. But they were limping to the finish line. They were limping to the finish line.
They ruined my Wednesday night NIT moneyline Mountain West parlay that I had with those three. They were the ones who let it down. Good weekend of hoops, of course, here for us. Don't forget, we still have the Sunshine Double Profit Boost going here at Betting Weekly. The second half of the Sunshine Double, the Miami Open, is underway, and you can enhance your best bet with a generous profit boost from Bet Rivers. Enter the code BW316 in your Bet Rivers app, and you'll receive a 100% profit boost to use on any Miami Open bet up to $25. That code again is BW316. Offer ends on March the 29th. Must be 21. Eligible players only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. There are other things going on in the world besides the NCAA tournament. As much as
Spieth blowing up.
Spieth today. I mean, what? And you know what? That's why it's dangerous to bet him, because
he's
so
soft. I mean, most of these golfers are, but he's really just soft.
So he's T22, but he comes down today and he goes. What did he do in the back? I think he went bogey, bogey, birdie, birdie, bogey. Like it was just the typical Spieth experience.
He had 8 pars. Okay, he had 8 pars.
Yeah,
that means he had 11 holes where he was above or below par.
It was quite the roller coaster for them there.
Talk about variance.
NBA 6 games tonight. NBA TV, of course, has it with the double dip. Or actually, they have who do they got tonight? NBA TV. You know what? Warriors Pistons.
They have Hawks Rockets.
Oh, they have Hawks Rockets. It says Warriors Pistons here. I'm going to start with the Warriors and Pistons. Pistons -5, 217 flat the total.
Yeah, I worry Golden State's live here. Pistons came out, wounded soldier, played without Cade in the first game and led by like 20 after 1. And then the Wizards came back, and because the Wizards are terrible. I think this is a different outfit with the Warriors. Now, the totals are obviously adjusted, but this Pistons offense just isn't the same without Cade Cunningham. I mean, obviously, but he really is not. They miss him in a lot of ways because he controls the offense on a string. Jalen Duren's fantastic, truly fantastic, and I'm glad he was an all-star. He's their second best player, all that good stuff. So I would say the under, because I think the Warriors on this road trip, all that. But honestly, like Duren's been such a beast. I'd look at, he gets a lot of offensive rebounds, and I don't think Quentin Post or Guy Santos are going to stop him. So I think he can have a monster game.
There you go. Pistons Warriors tonight. Now let's talk about the NBA TV. Hawks are at the Rockets. The Hawks have won 11 in a row. And I don't know if this is allowed, Doug, but they're actually out of the play-in spot right now. I think the Hawks are only allowed to be in a play-in in the Eastern Conference, but they're actually 6th and past everybody. They're in Houston catching 3.5.
Well, them or Miami has to be in. So one of them, that the league's the Eastern Conference contractually obligated, and the Bulls, right?
Right.
I like the dog here. The numbers come down from 4.5 to 3.5. We saw Houston get back-to-back swept by LA at home. Sengun didn't play the first game. Obviously, Luka's been on a tear, so it's not the worst couple losses for the Rockets. I just think the Hawks present a lot of challenges, and I don't think they're fun to play against. And I think this Houston team's so disinterested in the regular season that they want to bring it in the playoffs and just want to flip the switch. So I'm rolling with hot Atlanta riding that win streak.
And I'm going to bring up the Luka thing in a moment because you're right. He is. I'll do that last, Doug, after we get through all these games. Nuggets tonight at home against the Raptors. Nuggets right now -7 at Bet Rivers, 239.
So this Raptors team is a farce. They're just not good. Now, I don't think Denver plays lockdown D. I think Toronto's stupid enough to try to run with this Nuggets squad. So I like team total over. I like first half team total over for the Nuggets. They want to get back on track. 123.5. Like this. So Denver lost at home as like a 18-point favorite or something ridiculous to Memphis. Now, their plane had a bunch of delays. They got back at like 6 a.m., one of those storied situations. I just think the Nuggets are going to want to like unleash hell on the Raptors, and I think the Raptors will run with them, and that's a kiss of death. So I like Denver here. Now, the last time they played each other, that was in the 6. I was on New Year's Eve, and they only scored 106 points on the road and won. So that concerns me a little bit, but very different situation. I think Denver's going to come out and sling it.
Villanova's down 3, yet they're 6 of 18 from 3. They've hit 6 3-pointers.
It's tied now.
Oh, is it tied now? They hit another one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Look at this. 7 3-pointers for Villanova from downtown. The Knicks and the Nets tonight in Brooklyn. The Knicks have beaten the Nets this year by 54, 36, and 13. It's 17.5 tonight.
I mean, I can't.
Get
so Michael Porter Jr.'s out for a while.
Yeah.
Josh Hart, I believe, is out tonight. Towns is questionable. The little gremlin Alvarado might start. But I think he's terrible. I think he stinks. Everyone's like, oh, no, he's a crowd favorite. Like, crowd favorite is euphemism is you bring nothing else to the table. He does some nice things here and there, but I think there's a lot of good backup guards who aren't giant liabilities on defense and don't force the offense to change when you come in the game. I just think the Nets will be fine, but they should get drilled. But I would take the points before I laid it.
Celtics and Grizzlies tonight in Memphis. Celtics laying a big number on the road.
Gosh, the other night they laid 20.5 and did not cover against the Wiz. I would take it with the Grizzlies. They're off a big win and they're playing hard. And they'll come at you. They're relentless, I guess is the best way to put it. So
relentless would be the best way, probably to be there. And finally, the Blazers and the Timberwolves tonight. Short spread here. 1.5 now for the T-Wolves. I think it's a 2 now. 2 for Minnesota.
This is interesting. I think the T-Wolves are the right side here. And obviously, still no Ant, and they're not a good outfit. But this Portland team leaves a lot to be desired. And Portland's off a couple wins, played with their food. This is when Portland lays an egg. I'll tell you what's a good bet is first quarter T-Wolves.
First quarter T-Wolves tonight. All right, quickly, from the weekend, Lakers and Magic tomorrow night in Orlando. As you mentioned, Luka's on an absolute heater right now. I saw you tweet about this, so much so that his odds for the MVP have taken a significant move during this heater.
Hopefully we burned the air check from a couple days ago when someone asked in the chat, should we bet Luka at 100-1 to win MVP? And I said, no chance. Well, he's now in the 17-1 neighborhood. I still don't think he can win. And to be honest, moving from 100-1 to 17-1 is not like that big of a move. As crazy as that sounds, it's about like, win probability, whatever. It's not that. I mean, obviously you want 100-1. I don't think he's going to win. I don't think the Lakers can get high enough in the standings. And this is really important with all these sort of situations, there's just other viable candidates. Now, if SGA was hurt and wasn't going to meet the minimum games, and same with Wemby and stuff, then you can start making a case for Luka, but it's not the best player. It's not the thing. And the Lakers are going to come back to earth at some point. And it's, the MVP is not given. Now, he'd have to do this the rest of the year, and the Lakers would have to finish with like the 3 seed or 2 seed. And now they do own the tiebreaker over Houston, Minnesota, and Denver. But I just think SGA and Wemby are a tier above. And if it's not, I think it's Jaylen Brown. So he's been doing it all year, and he plays defense.
Right. That's what I would think too. With that, Doug, it is amazing, and we talk about this all the time. Big games, swing these numbers, high-profile games. Lakers played the Rockets on national TV twice in a row. Then the Heat last night.
Right.
You have all these things that kind of factor into what is going on.
But
So
he's dropping 60. I mean, that.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's Miami, where clearly the things are inflated because they shoot so quickly. But
did you like Bam last night? Now you see how hard it is to get 80. You know, like I got 60 and he played so well. Calm down, Bam. You know,
yeah,
Bam, you
played the Wizards. Just shut up.
Just take your 83, Bam.
Yeah,
relax.
Just when everyone's forgot about it, you don't need to revisit this.
There you go. NBA for tonight with us. Hofstra down 10. Let's stay within that 11.5.
Hanging around. You know who's not hanging around is Tennessee State.
What is that up to now? Oh, boy.
35.
Well, it's around that halftime number, right? What do we have up there?
Dog.
35.5, I think we saw at halftime. NHL, there's only 5 games tonight, Doug. There's only one thing I like tonight of this slate, and it's not a great slate. I do like, and I probably shouldn't be doing this because this team has been haunting me all week, but I'm going to take Anaheim tonight in Utah against the Mammoth, and I keep picking on this Mammoth team. The second night of a back-to-back. They won in Vegas last night. They're going to turn around. The Ducks we've hit them a bunch as a dog on the road a few times. I like the Ducks late night, plus $1.16 in Utah. Colorado's laying an ungodly number in Chicago against the Blackhawks.
Are we going to talk about my Blackhawks at all in the
first
period?
Dougie Pucks, first period, 1-0 Blackhawks. I hope you guys tailed that yesterday because it was a winner.
3-way line plus 250.
Didn't they win the game outright? They did.
They
2-1. They beat the Wild 2-1.
That was an NBA handicap. That was an NBA spot on ice.
NBA spot on ice. Canes Leafs tonight. Devils Capitals.
So you don't want to bet the Avs minus 350?
Not particularly, no. Although I'm sure after winning last night, Chicago will lay down and lose 7-0 tonight. But
so puck line? Puck line's only minus 145.
Minus 145. For the puck line.
What about, are we fading the Leafs with the Hurricanes?
Probably should fade the Leafs. What's a Hurricane Avalanche money line parlay tonight? What does that get me? Probably not much.
Not much, but let's
much,
look.
But it's got to be better.
Minus 115. Ooh, best bet.
That's not awful. Minus 115 for the both of them playing these awful teams tonight. I got enough money I'm going to be involved with at the basketball, Doug. I don't know if I can get too crazy with the hockey tonight.
You may need to bail out of the Utah State bet.
Well, that's why I got the Ducks at 10 o'clock against the Utah Mammoth. That's probably going to be Avalanche and Hurricane moneyline parlay minus $1.15. There you go. And the Sabres won again last night in San Jose.
They did. Unfortunately, Tampa did too. But
Tampa doesn't lose either. So they're
rocking chair win for the Sabres.
It's still a 4-point cushion with 2 games in hand.
5-zip.
Yeah. So the Sabres keep trucking along as they're still in California this whole weekend. There you go. If you like what you see on Betting Weekly Live, as you should, make sure you subscribe to the Betting Weekly Studios channel on YouTube. You can catch us and all of our other shows, including released earlier today, Betting Weekly Extra Time. Steve Wish, James Eastham, and Dan Roebuck as they preview the weekend soccer matches across the top leagues in Europe, including Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid. Betting Weekly Extra Time. Check out Steve, James, and Dan for that. All right, Doug, it is time. The best bets and the daily double.
Really?
It is. I'm sorry. You've got choices, Doug. You've got lots of choices.
Sneak up on me.
It does sneak up on you.
A TV term. Stretch it out.
We'll get there. We'll stretch it out. I'll stretch it out with my pick for us. I really like the under in this UCLA-UCF game tonight. I think that UCLA is going to win the game, but their path to victory is they're going to make this a bit of a street fight this evening. I know UCF can score a little bit, but UCLA has got a really good defense. I think 151.5 is way too much for this game. Could be played in the high 60s, somewhere in that area. I'm going under 151.5, Doug, for the best bet tonight.
Okay, so perhaps great minds think alike because I'm also going to a total. It's very close to pulling the trigger on Kansas. Very close, but I'm going to go the over in that Purdue Queens game. I just think Purdue's offense is clicking, man, and Queens is going to run with them. And 159.5 is a big number. I mean, look, that St. Louis, Georgia game that second half total was like 91.5 or something insane, and it still went over, and the game barely got over. So these high totals are tough to get there, but I think we do. I'm on the over in the St. Louis city with this matchup.
So 159.5 over Purdue and Queens, 151.5 under UCF and UCLA, plus 259 for the Friday night daily double at Bet Rivers. And that would give us, if we can get this home, which we should, hopefully will, 2 for the week. And we always say, Doug, we get 2 every week. That's more than a winning week.
Just
That's
rolling
a great
around
week
in money.
If we can get 2 every week. So we had one this week. Let's get a second here tonight with a little NCAA tournament daily double at Bet Rivers. Hofstra back to 7. They've kind of got back in this game. Actually, make that 5 as a steal and a slam, at least on my TV. Doug's probably ahead of me. And Villanova up 2 with Utah State at the line now, according to my
approaching halftime there in Villanova. So Nova's back in the game and then some. They have the lead, which is annoying. But they got to cool off at some point.
They're not going to hit 7, 8, 9 threes again in the second half, are they? I mean, they've hit a ton of threes here in the first half. Doug, tremendous job as always. Enjoy the weekend. And it goes fast because when we come back on Monday at 4 p.m. East, 1 p.m. Pacific, we'll only have 16 teams left.
Yeah, sad. It's sad. We'll have 12.
Hey.
15 college basketball games left that matter. I mean, there's NIT, but
don't worry, Doug, because Yankees-Giants on Netflix Wednesday night to start the Major League Baseball season. It's right around the corner. You got that next week, too. So very busy. Great job, as always, Doug. Mike Carver, Doug Kezirian, Betting Weekly Live. Have a great weekend. We will see you back here Monday, 4 p.m. East, 1 p.m. Pacific.